So do you believe that evil is a necessary condition for free will for humans?
Is evil a necessary condition?
Hmm. For free will for us,
Not necessary, but byproduct of.
byproduct of. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
I think I see. Okay, so
Meaning,
okay,
going off the cancer ideology, a
Yes, why
body
is
can
the
live without
Bible allowing
cancer.
slavery?
What?
Why is the Bible allowing slavery in Leviticus?
I appreciate you coming in here and interrupting our full out conversation.
Oh,
Thank you for
you're
that.
welcome.
All right.
So
I
yeah.
will answer that.
Uh-huh.
Give me a minute. Me and Exzilla are sitting here having a conversation, and you kind of just walked on in like you own the place.
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry. I'm sorry.
yeah, chill out for a second. So, going off of the cancer ideology, right?
hmm,
A body can live without cancer, but cancer cannot live without a body. So, evil can't exist if we don't have good, meaning it's not necessary. But good is necessary for evil to exist. So, a body is necessary for cancer to exist.
okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah, I think I kind of got it. So you said good is a necessary thing for evil to exist, right?
Correct. It
Okay,
has to exist because evil is the byproduct of good. You don't know what a crooked line is if you don't know what a straight line is.
okay. So anything other than good is bad, right, or evil?
Essentially, yes. They're very comparative,
Okay,
contrastual.
okay, okay. So yeah, my second question is God does God have free will?
Dude, I don't even know. I would assume so because if we're made in the image of God and we're given agency, that means that God had a choice, right?
Yeah.
We're the choice, the agency
All
to
right, a minute
choose
just
something.
passed. A
Like,
minute just passed. I'll give it a
Okay,
minute.
okay, no.
all right, Brett, you can do this another day. I ain't dealing with it.
But a minute just passed.
Nah, dude.
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, what I was gonna try to get at is that we have free will with the necessary, or not, but with the byproduct of evil, right? But God has
Sure,
essentially has free will as well as the nature of being maximally good or goodness. Like He has all goodness or infinite goodness, essentially. So we know that if God
sure.
has free will as well as infinite goodness and cannot have the or doesn't have the byproduct of evilness, I would see it that God could have actualized the state of affairs in which we live in to have uh like good free will, because it's possible to have goodness without the evilness whilst having free will, essentially.
Sure. So this variable actually, there's a dude, couple guys before you that brought it up to me, and what I brought up to him was if you just go off of the, let's call this a math equation, right?
Hmm.
You got a couple of different variables that are thrown into this with a conclusion at the end.
Hmm.
God is all good, God is all knowing, God is all powerful, and God has free will in order to choose. Therefore, evil shouldn't exist, right? This is the logical problem of evil. That's not the full equation of what we see with God. You're missing the love within him, the relational side of him, the justice side of him, right? All of these have to throw into the equation if we're talking about the Christian God. Because to exclude them, you're no longer talking about the Christian God, you're talking about some other different God that we don't believe in.
Right.
So if God is loving, he's all good, he's all powerful, he's all knowing, and he has the agency to choose to create, right? He's going to choose a creation, give them agency to choose maximal good effect or maximal bad effect. If logically following, I can choose to follow God, I can also choose to not follow God. And God being all loving is not going to stomp on our free will and not allow us to do that, because then that's not freedom, and freedom spawns from love. So if God is loving, there are priorities that are subjugated, right? The loving aspect of him can work coincidental with justice. And what we see is the justice that they received also came from love. By you choosing to step aside and not follow me, I'm going to allow that, but I'm going to pull back my divine sovereign, my divine protection, right? And force you out of the Garden of Eden. That is the variable that we're talking about when we're talking about the Christian God, an all good, all powerful, all knowing, free will, all loving, justful God that has to behave according to his nature, and we see that within the scriptures.
Yeah, I mean, I mid talk, I think I understood something where like it kind of answers my question I've been or answers the question I've been looking for or the answer I'm looking for. Essentially, I think the maximally good option we have is to follow Jesus, essentially giving us the free will as well as the maximally goodness, in which the option is
Hmm.
following Jesus. I think picked up mid through that, so yeah, but yeah, that's interesting, but.
Yeah, there's maximally good choices we can make and maximally bad choices we can make. Same thing with God. There's maximally good choices, but in order to, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. That is not what we believe. We don't believe God makes maximally bad choices.
Yeah.
The good behavior or the good choices he makes spawn from his nature. So that is where we get like moral standards from. Is if we know what good is, well, how do we know what good is? You can't have good, or you can have good without evil, you can't have evil without good, but then if everything points back to good, how do we know what good is? Therefore, there's got to be a standard that is set for us to observe what good is, and we find that within God. Same thing with our behaviors. If we know what maximally good is, we know that based off of what God has given us, and we know what maximally evil is because it is the complete 180-degree opposite of what we find uh, behaving according to God's will, right?
Mm.
That's a whole bunch of Christianese. I'm sorry if that went over your
No,
head or just sounded cringy.
no, you're good. You're good. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't see like the like the correlation between like us having good free will with us like because I try to make it seem to where it's like logically possible, but I don't see like
Mhm.
the variables like you mentioned earlier. I don't see how the variables would correlate with the question in question. If you know what I'm
Yeah,
if
I have to argue that the variables cannot be separated from God. You cannot separate an all loving God from the God that we're talking about if we're talking about the Christian God. Because we see that God is love. We see, Psalms 100 verse 5 where it talks about God is love, right?
yeah.
So these parts of his nature cannot be separated from him.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to include them within the variable when you're talking about them, right? When we think about babies with cancer or G-sides in the Old Testament or slavery, we have to incorporate God is just, God is love, God is all-knowing, God is omnipotent, God is present with them. We see that God is not separated from humanity. We see that in the depiction of Jesus Christ, that he came down into creation and was willing to suffer with us and be limited, have constraints to his nature, his human nature, set an example. So God is not distant. Therefore, having all of these variables, you cannot separate them from the nature of God when addressing problems like the problem of evil, the problem of slavery, the problem of genocide, the problem of uh, animal sacrifice and turning into human sacrifice, right? Like
Okay.
you have to keep all of these in the forefront of your mind. You don't get to just pick and choose what you apply to God and what you don't apply to God.
Okay, I think I understand now. So yeah, I would say with God's good nature, I think the variables you mentioned, like I think every variable that God has, right, is like categorized under his good nature, right?
Yeah, so like love is good, justice is good, empathy is good, freedom is good, right? All of these
Mm-hmm.
come from just the generalized term of goodness. Well,
Okay.
what is God's goodness? And that's all those variables I mentioned.
Right, right. So when we reference the goodness, it's referencing back to those, right? So I would say like I wouldn't say that asking if God can give us good free will wouldn't undermine the categories or the variables in question, right? I don't see how like asking if God can make us maximally good with free will is like taking away the variables necessarily.
All right, say that one more time. You don't see that.
Yeah, I don't see how like because it's already established that we know that God is like maximally good or good and the variables under it are good within his nature, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't see how asking the question if God's good nature can allow us to have his good nature as well as free will without that madness being like a byproduct of our free will, I don't see how that question would take away that variable of goodness if it already categorizes it.
I would say that variables have variables too. So if God is loving, he's going to give them the freedom to choose. And if they choose evil, God's justice and love is going to spawn from that too. So another variable gets brought in, right? Justice. He's going to allow that to happen, but he's not going to allow it to happen unchecked, right? He already knows that it's going to happen. God, being so sovereign, is going to make his plan come into fruition regardless of our obedience and disobedience, which are also variables thrown into this equation. So when I say like variables have variables, I mean that ultimately the sovereign part of God, right, knows that this is going to happen and will act according to his nature, allowing it to happen coming from love, dealing with it coming from justice, and still finding a way to redeem them coming back from that that love again, right?
Hmm.
So allowing free will comes from love. Dealing with people's behavior comes from justice. Both of those are part of God's good nature. So he's still acting according to his nature while allowing things that are not according to his will and to his nature to happen.
He's still out. Okay. But wouldn't like logically like wouldn't the maximally good like option to give us free will as well as that goodness variable like that goodness that he has that has multiple variables?
Well, that's also making us God then, because only God is good. So if he made us good, then we would also be on the standard of God, which we know we're not.
But I don't think that having all power, or yeah, I don't think being all good means you're all powerful. That means we're not God.
So I see what you're saying. It's all good, yet not all powerful.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're not capable of the possibility of evil, then we're not capable of choice.
Yeah, then that's where we circle back to my question is whether or not if we like if because God has goodwill or God has free will and he has the good like the goodness of free will without having the consequences of having badness within his free will, which means that it's possible that we can have the free will with the goodness without the badness essentially.
Hello.
Hi, Parky. Um,
What do we say? What do we say? What do we say?
how would I say this? I feel like we're just going in circles at this point. I guess I'm struggling to um, I'm struggling to see why. I don't know. I just hit a wall. I'm distracted because I'm actually taking a test right now. But
You're good, man. My bad.
no,
But
you're
yeah.
good. You're good. This conversation's been interesting, so I wanna keep going. But I just kind of hit a wall there for a second. Hard to debunk a belief. David, you're an interesting creature. I gotta say. You mic dropped me earlier, and I thought it was funny when you laughed. I giggled a little. I was like, "Science, pow, yeah, right on." Um, yeah, that exactly what you said. I thought it was kind of funny, and then you just mic dropped me and left. How would I say it? Okay, hold on. Let me rephrase this. Are you saying that if God is good, it would logically follow that he would create something that only has the capacity for good?
Um, it's essentially yes. Yes, yeah, I'm saying it. Yeah, if God logically can follow that, He can make this maximally like. Wait, restate your question because like that it blinked. My
If
bad.
God is good,
Hmm.
wouldn't it logically follow he would only create creations capable of good?
Yes. Yeah. Essentially.
All right. That is very philosophical. And give me just a few minutes to, not a few minutes, but like a few seconds to just process this, because I feel like I've touched up on things and I don't want to continue to run in circles, but I feel like I have kind of explained this in a little bit. So
You're good, man. Take your time.
if they were only capable of good and only had choices that were good, that is logically possible, logically following the nature of God. But that is programming. Designing the human to not fully experience free choice, to not fully experience the choice of evil, is programming, and that's not what we find when we're talking about the context of free will. They would be like morally obligated robots to only do. They would still choose whether they chose to worship God or chose to serve a neighbor or chose to pray or chose to go build a tabernacle and start offering things, which they wouldn't need to if they weren't committing evil. But we're only choosing to do good things. That's moral programming, and that's not what we find within free will. And freedom and goodness, right? This good God, those things are inseparable. You cannot separate freedom from goodness. There's no bad freedom, right? The concept of freedom comes from loving, right? Love. So I think it would logically follow this way, where he would allow a being or create beings to love God or reject him. That's where freedom comes in. To obey God's laws, to follow his rules, or to rebel against them. So that freedom that we're given from free will cannot be programmed for us to morally behave in such a way that reflects his goodness.
It can't be okay. You can't be reflected from okay. With the programming, you're saying that if we are to actualize our goodness within our free will without the bad, that would be taking away the free will, hence the programming.
Correct. They would not be true, genuine free will, true, genuine choice, right? He wants a genuine relationship, which requires genuine freedom of people genuinely choosing him, not programmed to choose him, or not programmed constraints inside of their molecular their makeup and how they're designed for them to only choose good, because then it's not a genuine relationship. That's where that super potent true real love comes from.
Okay, I think I see. Okay, so when you say genuine, right, is that like that seems to be taking away the what I mentioned earlier about the goodness of free will without having the bad. When you say genuine, why does being genuine, like, let me word this the best way I can. Let me how is the goodness without the badness not genuine, essentially?
How is the goodness without the badness not genuine?
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm yawning.
Because I don't see how limiting the options of, like, not committing bad is not genuine, essentially.
So we see there is genuine goodness prior to the fall. I'm not saying that goodness can't be genuine without evil. I'm just saying that it follows that evil came from a genuine goodness, if that makes sense.
It came from it, but it's not a necessity.
No, it is not a necessity, okay. Right? Like I said, cancer can't exist outside of the body, right. Meaning evil can't exist if there's nothing good in the first place. There's no corruption. There's nothing to corrupt. Evil is just a corruption of, right? It is a concept coming from another concept, birthing from another concept. But what I'm getting at is we see genuine relationship prior, but that would follow that there's genuine evil, or that would follow that there's evil coming from a genuine relationship. So they genuinely chose God, and it was good. After a while, from that genuine relationship, they were also given the authority and ability to choose otherwise. which still forces the genuinity, right? The genuine relationship, but evil spans from it. So evil itself is not a creation, right? It wasn't created. It wasn't designed. It is a corruption of something that is existent, right? Independent existence. This good is independent existence, and creation came from it depending on it.
Wait, independent existence. So it exists without God?
No, what I mean is like evil exists whether okay, sorry, I'm saying this wrong. Evil has no independent existence. It relies on something else to exist, meaning light is good, right? Like the darkness exists because we don't have light in that particular area. You flip on a light switch when you go downstairs, and all of a sudden all the darkness disappears, meaning light is not dependent on itself. It exists, right? It's independent. But evil, or not, darkness depends on light. Darkness only exists if there's no light there in the first place. Evil is the same way. Evil only exists if there was something good there to corrupt in the first place. So good is independent existence. And what I mean is by itself, not like without God. God is the moral standard of good. But what I'm getting at is evil, on contrast of evil and good, evil depends on good. Good does not depend on evil. Good is independent. Evil is dependent. They both exist, but evil is dependent on good. Just like darkness depends on light to be switched on.
Okay, I think I understand, but I feel like this goes back into the circle of like my question, because this addresses the goodness with the free will of goodness and evil, not the free will of only goodness, necessity. With of course the maximally good nature in which God could have given us. I feel like we're going back in circles a little bit again.
And unfortunately, I don't feel like I know enough on this topic to like have a silver bullet answer to end the conversation, because of the fact that we have scholars who have been digging into this stuff for centuries. I mean, the problem with evil has probably been around since early philosophy. I mean, looking at Plato and Socrates, they talk a little bit about it. But yeah. I guess what I'm getting at is like, I have evidence and I have information that's sufficient for me to understand that evil only exists because of good, and good exists because of God. You know, done deal, there it is. But because it's just a contention point, like this is an opener. I don't think it's the only conversation to be had about Christianity, but it's an opener for the redemptive plan of Christianity, and that's where, like, I like the conversation. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, I don't know enough, and therefore it's going to keep running in circles. It just leads me to push the resurrection story. It's like the resurrection story, Christ coming back, showing that death is incapable of conquering it, right? Mm-hmm. That's where, because there's evil and we have to deal with it, we're not bound by evil for all eternity, right? Like God's goodness doesn't stop at permission. It turns this evil into redemption, salvation.
I think I understand now. I think it's I think this being an internal critique, I think it's just because it's literally an internal critique, but I don't think the answer is just logically an answer. I think internally, I think it is an answer.
Yeah.
An internal answer, I think, essentially. But yeah, I just wanted to pose that interesting proposition on you and make you think. But yeah.
No, I saw that you were a follower of Christ. You got 3 videos in there too. So
yeah,
I picked up that you weren't.
Have you heard of Inspiring Philosophy?
Yeah, dude, I fuck with him.
Yeah, man.
I like him a lot. He's wicked smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's awesome. That's one of the people I look up to in the community. But yeah,
right on, dude.
But yeah, I mean, if you want to, like, we can follow up, like, once you have an answer. I'll follow you real quick, man, and like, if you want to, you can message me, and if you found the answer, I would be love to hearing you out on that. But yeah, it's a question. Even I'm looking.
I can look into this stuff. It's just part of it is this is over my head. Like I get to a certain point, like this is skill based matchmaking. I get to a certain point, and it's just like I don't know, dude.